Hello everyone and happy Wednesday. I know this video is kind of late going up. Normally I put them up in the morning, but for some reason Spirit said no, do it later. So here I am. So we're going to go through this deck today. I don't know if I already went through it. I don't pay attention, but if I have, you'll be all right. But if this is your first time seeing it, if you find a card in there that resonates with you, go ahead and, comment below which card that is, right? I'm just curious what calls to many of you. So today's topic of discussion is surviving versus thriving. And I wasn't going to touch on this, but for some reason, Spirit's like, get on it, right? So again, I'm going to try to keep this, conversation to under 20 minutes. That's my struggle, okay? That's going to be my struggle. But I'm going to shoot for it because I'm summarizing here. But for those of you who have anxiety, PTSD, or anything like that, you know what survival mode is. And you know that you're in it and that it doesn't feel good. You're constantly preparing for the worst. And so your mind is constantly in fight or flight mode. And you're doing everything you can to just feel normal, right? To feel like you have a purpose. A lot of times we begin hoarding things or you're either like one extreme or you're the other. And sometimes you end up taking those extremes out on the people around you. Okay. And you're just, what most people don't understand is that you're in a position where you're surviving life versus thriving through it. And a lot of times that has to deal with societal, concerns, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, if society says do this, then we do that. And then other people are like, well, my parents taught me to do this, so I'm going to do that. And you kind of forget who you are in that whole process, right? You forget where you came from, like soul wise, and you just kind of fall into the norm of just surviving. So you come out with this mindset that it's survival of the fittest. And I am not excluded from that, right? So story time. So right before I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree, I got a call from my mom and she said, don't you bring your ass back home. Those were her exact words, okay? Now, a lot of you are going to go, oh, how dare she, right? You're her child. She literally told me, do not come back home. I don't know if she was under the assumption that, oh, you have a college degree, you must have a job lined up, stay where you are, don't come back home. But I had nothing, okay? I had absolutely nothing. I was working 3 jobs. I was in school full time the whole last year in college, and I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have a car. I had nothing. I rode a bike to work, okay? And literally, I was put into survival mode, and I stayed in that mode for so many years. Now, a lot of people will say, you're a psychic medium. You should have knew you should have known it was coming. Well, I knew it was coming. But how do you prepare such a small amount of time, right? How do you prepare for things to make sense in a very small amount of time? You don't prepare. And so I literally was like, all right, just go, do what you have to do. So what did I do? I ended up making some decisions that, could have cost me my life in the end. I'll say it that way. And I don't have any regrets about it. But the part I want to focus on is living in survival mode. Because once you get in it, it's so difficult to come out of it, because in your mind, things are working. In your mind, things are fixing themselves. In your mind, if you're a hoarder, you hoard something, you're like, no, I'm going to fucking use that in like 2 days. I just know it. But then 2 days turn into 2 years and you haven't actually used that very thing that you're hoarding. But you keep holding on to the idea that you need it, because if you're ever in a position, you're going to fucking need it and you have it, right? That's surviving. Because you think everything is going to, like, the whole fucking world is ending, right? You just have this notion that the world is ending, that you don't know what to do, shit don't make sense. And so you literally just go into like game mode. You like, we here, let's do this, right? And then you end up with anxiety, PTSD, anything like that. And you end up living in fear that you won't have enough, and that if you got rid of some things, you're getting rid of your whole life, or that if you heal, no one's gonna pay attention to you, right? Because all attention is good attention when you're in survival mode. And I'm gonna tell you, it took me, going through that, right? I ended up whole ass married, okay? And it took me going through that entire spiral of marriage and whatever the nature of that relationship was with that person, and then going through the divorce and things of that nature. And sorry, that card was upside down. And once I got out of it and started building myself to thriving versus just surviving, because I was literally in survival mode. In my mind, as long as I had a vehicle, I had a home. That's how I looked at things, right? If I had nowhere else to be, I was in my home, okay? And it wasn't until I got out of that whole situation, which took some time, but I got out of that situation and I started deciding for myself versus letting someone else attempt to decide for me. I started deciding for myself that, okay, I'm going to go to the other extreme. I went from hoarding to having absolutely nothing in my home. And I figured that way, if anything happened, I don't have that much to pack, right? I was still in survival mode. But then something clicked as I was in that healing journey and as I was helping others who were, coming out of their journey as well, because there was a group of us, right? They were coming out of their journey as well. Something clicked and said, girl, just live, right? Just thrive. It's okay if you want that plant. Have that plant. It's okay if you get rid of last season's shit. You don't need it anymore. And you're not using it next season because you barely used it this season. Throw it away, right? Give it away. Do what you got to do, right? It's totally fine to live. Where I was in this position where I didn't think it was okay to live normally. I had to survive. You just had to survive. And if you didn't, you were going to go down. You were going to die, right? And that was just it. So I'm telling you this because most people who have been coming to me as of late, not everyone, but most people are in survival mode, okay? And when I say that I walked home barefoot, I went from surviving to thriving. I went from not using my intuition as much as I could because I used it for work. I didn't use it on my own, like for my own personal life, if that makes sense. I began thriving. And as a person, who, when I went to therapy, right, because I knew I needed it, that woman was like, you have PTSD. I was like, is that what it's called? Like, because I didn't understand the full journey. I didn't understand where I was. And she goes, you're surviving. You think you're in constant battle. You think you're at constant war with something, that something's coming and something's gonna fuck up your world. And so you're just waiting for that fuck up. And then she told me, she goes, so you're basically creating your own chaos. I was like, oh no, we don't do that. No. I don't want that, right? I don't want chaos. I want my house to be peaceful. And so I set out to do that, right? So as I began healing and I started moving closer to, my soul tribe, soul friends, and things of that nature for my own personal journey, not just the people I can help, because that's all spirit channeled. I was now channeling for myself. And I got to thriving. And then I noticed when I came home from work, it didn't hurt, right? I didn't feel claustrophobic. I didn't feel like I didn't have enough. I felt like my home was enough. And I did my best to put the type of energy I wanted to feel in my home so that when people came to visit, they might have came in troubled, but they left just fine, right? They left with a full belly because I believe in feeding people, right? When people come over, I'm like, what you want to eat? That's the first thing out of my mouth. You want something to eat? You want something to drink? That's just me. Sorry for shaking the camera there. And I began to thrive and I began to feel better. And then I didn't have all of that anxiety just sitting, right? And you get to this point where healing begins and healing takes shape, it takes form, and then you're thriving. And I want this video for those of you who are in survival mode, which includes anxiety, panic, anything that's causing you to live in fear, PTSD, depression, all of that, anything that's causing you to live in a state of fear. And so you're constantly just trying to survive your mind, that you can survive. Okay? If you do anything, you can survive, right? And when you get to that point of thriving, you're hit with constant lessons. I shouldn't say constant because that's not really true. Certain situations will trigger you to be in survival mode, okay? And that survival mode is typically that fight or flight response that we typically have where the adrenaline rushes. For those of you in survival mode, you're constantly in adrenal rush, right? And so you're always tired. You don't have energy and your immune system's shot, okay? You'll break out in hives, you'll have random sinus infections or anything like that. Is because your body is in overload and it's doing its best to keep up with what you got going on, right? So I'm here to tell you that you can move from survival mode to thriving, right? To that thrive mode. It takes time. It takes patience with yourself, not with the person assisting you. It takes patience with yourself, because you now have to make decisions versus just, going, okay, well, this looks good, I'm going to do that. This looks good, I'm going to do that. It's now you have to think it through. Now you have to see the full spectrum of what's going on, and you're learning how to thrive. You're learning how to live, how to enjoy your life for what you've always wanted it to be. And a lot of times that's getting out of a bad relationship with someone who might have narcissistic qualities. They might not necessarily just be a narcissist, okay? Because you can't classify everyone as a narcissist. But we all have narcissistic tendencies that tend to come out for some people. So some people, it's getting out of a relationship, it's leaving a job. Now, I had to do that too, right? Because your boss is coming at you, right? For some of us, it's a job. For some of us, it's dealing with family. For some of us, it's dealing with a chaotic child. For some of us, it's just, the people we associate with. You're learning to thrive against the constraints that people have put around you, but also that you've allowed to be around you, right? You don't have to stay in survival mode. You can thrive, okay? But it is a battle, okay? I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a whole ass battle. It is, I don't really know how to describe the kind of battle it is. So if you are into video games as I am, the only way that I can describe this is you are in a game of Mortal Kombat, okay? And you are, how can I say this? You're starting out with Liu Kang. Now, if you know Mortal Kombat like I do, and you play like I do, Liu Kang suck, okay? Like, listen, your little kung fu ain't gonna get us nowhere, sir. I'm gonna need you to have some more powers, right? You're starting off like that, right? You're learning the journey, and you're getting your ass beat along the way, okay? But then down the line, you get a better player, right? You go from surviving as this puny human in this game of Mortal Kombat against these, supernatural beings to now using a different character who's more supernatural, right? And in my case, if you know me, that will be Scorpion, okay? And you're not just surviving, you're thriving, right? You're claiming your soul back. You're pulling your energy back. And I urge you to do that, right? Especially if you're looking to come out of that survival mode. I urge you to pull your power back because it belongs to you, okay? I urge you to do that every day. Just call your power back to you at the end of the night. And you can say something like, I call all of my power back from times past, times present, and times in the future, from all times, right? And I send any power that doesn't belong to me back to its original owner. You're releasing what doesn't, like any constraints that are put on you, and you're sending it back to where it came from, and you're calling your power back so that you're more whole at the end of the night, right? So that you don't have to, like, you can sleep. That's what I'm trying to get at. You're trying to get, because in survival mode, think of it as like a stray animal, and it's raining outside, right? And it's trying to find a dry place to sleep. But every place it finds, there's already an animal taking up that space, right? So it just travels and travels and travels in the rain, soaking wet, until it finds a place that is safe and secure. That's survival mode, okay? Thriving comes after that point, which that animal that is now trekked through all this water, all this raining, like just pouring on them, and they get picked up by the Humane Society, and particularly one that doesn't kill animals, okay? Let's clarify some things because I don't want to cause any more anxiety than you might already have. And they get you all cleaned up. They get you the medicine you need. You got food. And you're like, oh, okay. So now you're in that space where you're just, well, this is perfect for it. You're supported, right? But you're not quite thriving because now you're stuck at the Humane Society. And now you need an owner, okay? And someone comes to adopt you, okay? And you get there. Now, you're a little timid at first because you're like, I don't know this space. I don't know you, right? I don't know your house. I don't know this space. We not friends just yet, but I like you enough to come home with you. So you go home with that, right? And then after a day or two, you like, oh, this home? Like, you're not just fostering me. You actually brought me home. That's where you thrive. That's also the position where your conscious mind and your subconscious mind come together, and it's like, hey, I'm sorry I had to hide you for a little bit, but we were surviving, and that was the only way to keep you safe, was to kind of like bury you under some stuff. But we together now, so let's, make up and move forward. That's where you are. That's where you are when you're thriving. And I'd like to tell you that you're not far away from thriving. You're never far away from it. It's just that mental roadblock that kind of gets in the way. So for those of you who are in survival mode, there are things you can do to, you know, to work through that. And I'm not going to keep talking here because we're already at 20 minutes, I believe. But if you know, need some support, let me know, and I'll gladly, you know, give you links to other places or whatever. Or even if you want to work with me, that's fine too. But know that there is a way to move from surviving to thriving. And that's the part of the healing journey. You're going to heal for the rest of your life, okay? Because every day you come to face with something. But it's a matter of how you approach it versus, you know, how you try to avoid it. Or if you just go into straight survival mode and half the time you don't even remember that you went through something, right? It wasn't until a couple of days ago that somebody reminded me, like, girl, you've been through a lot. I'm like, I have? Like, and I don't think about it because for some reason I was in survival mode, right? I don't remember how I got through it. I just remember I got through it. And so the people who knew me during that time, they're like, no, you've been through a lot. I'm like, okay. And I look at myself like, no, I survived it. I'm thriving now. I'm in a way better position than I was then, right? And now when I reflect back, I can say, okay, here we are, right? We don't have to constantly be on our toes. We don't have to walk on eggshells. We can actually just move through life at a steady pace, if that makes sense. So that being said, I don't want to hold you guys that much longer. If you need support, reach out. I would gladly help you locate it. Remember that, you know, you should call your power back to you at the end of the day, but right before you lay down and go to sleep. You want your power to come back to you before you go to rejuvenate, because otherwise, you know, you still have that open connection out there. And I do wish you all the brightest of blessings on your journey. And you stay hydrated, you stay healthy, and know that you got this. All right. Remember to like, share, comment, whatever, you know, whatever floats your boat today. And have a good one.